Hello, this is Craig Mertens, Director of Product Education for Inktavo, the parent company of GraphicsFlow, Inksoft, and Printavo. Welcome to our webcast, and let's talk about today's topic. So, class today is on streamlining your graphics process. As we go into the back-to-school season, which is very busy for most of us, one of the challenges that we have is no order gets processed until artwork gets processed. And one of the things that I see a lot of our clients do is, hey, just go to the internet and find your graphic and I'll reproduce it for you. In my opinion, that is one of the worst decisions you can make in our industry, because when you're inviting people to go to the internet, you're also inviting them to find your competitors. And so part of what we're going to be teaching today is giving you a proactive approach to how to get artwork handled up front so you can focus on getting the orders out the door. Because one of the things that we see in back to school is everything has a tendency to pile up. And if you're having artwork that is piling up, you can't get your orders printed until you get all that artwork resolved. So we're going to teach you some common sense principles for managing that aspect of your business. So the first thing I want to talk about, what is this process that buyers go through when they're selecting artwork? And in my point of view, there's really four different ways that a buyer of merchandise, whether it's apparel, decorated apparel, or it's promotional products, goes through this process. Number one, the buyer goes online and finds something. And, online's a pretty big space. So they're given quite a bit of latitude to do their research. And we're going to talk about some of the pitfalls of that angle. And then the buyer already has graphics that they developed. So that's a very common thing. I already have my logo, or somebody on my marketing team built out the logo, and we just need you to print it. The decorator must produce a custom graphic. That's one of the most common scenarios that you run into, is the client doesn't really have an idea as to what they want, and they're going to ask you to come up with something custom. And unfortunately, most of our clients don't have any concept of the human capital that's involved in producing custom graphics. And then the fourth area we're going to talk about is something that's near and dear to my heart, which is the buyer selects from stock designs, and all we're doing at that point is localizing that stock design to their unique needs. So we're going to kind of go through the different processes here. So the first one, buyer selects graphics online. The sales process is now controlled by the buyer. They are taking the lead. Nothing can move forward until the artwork is finalized. They are invited to find your competitors. So they go online looking for a graphic, and all of a sudden they find another website and, oh, I can go and design this myself. I don't need to use my local vendor. I can just go in and, grab this graphic, do a screen grab, send it over to my printer and have them print for me. Or I can go shop it around to see who's going to give me the best price, use one of the online sorts. So, buyers going to, online is a great invitation for them to find somebody else to print. And so we ultimately, I think we have to be very careful about doing that. And also, when they go online, they're typically going to find graphics that may or may not be suitable for our production process. So if we're doing screen printing and they find a 27 color full-on digital graphic with blends and gradients, which isn't going to work for screen printing, that's really not going to help us. And then you're put in this position where you have to explain to them, hey, this particular graphic's not going to work for my vinyl cutter. It might work for sublimation, but now I can't put it on dark substrates. Also, copyright issues. When they find other people's artwork online, they're not licensed to use that artwork, copyright issues. And I'll just say, simply put, it's all fun and games until you get a letter. Right. So we want to be very careful about, infringing on the copyrights and intellectual property of other apparel decorators, especially the big online stores who are very strict on people using their artwork. And then also you have higher level of art development costs. If you're having to take someone else's art and redevelop it because, they gave you a screen grab and then you have to try to, forensically reconstruct what they gave you, there's human capital involved in doing that. And there's going to be a time that's required to produce that. It's going to cause more than likely a production delay. But also, if you don't have the skills internally to produce that yourself and to copy it, then you're going to have to outsource that, and there's going to be a fee associated with that. So anytime you're recreating anybody else's artwork, you're always going to have that additional cost and also the delay and a longer production cycle. Because the one thing that we oftentimes don't account for is, guess what? We don't account for revisions. And so there's always that little bit of back and forth that we have to be concerned about. When we're talking about customer supplied artwork, one of the challenges with customer supplied artwork, like if you're looking at the Sun Valley graphic on the slide right here, is, there's nothing special about that particular graphic. That is their logo. So that is a commodity. They can take that logo to any vendor they choose to and get a price quote. And now people are doing direct importing from, places like Alibaba and some of these offshore companies. So buyers are pretty savvy, and especially specifically younger buyers are really savvy. And so, if all we're doing is logos and putting it on stuff, we have what we call a concentration risk, which is you get buyer turnover. The new buyer sees what they're paying and they go and shop it around and they find a lower price, even though it's maybe not apples to apples. It's unlikely you're going to be able to convince them any different. They've already made up their mind. They found it cheaper. There's nothing you're going to be able to tell them in many cases that's going to say, hey, it's not really the same thing. We do our product's better, our printing's better. You've lost the client. So, we want to hang on to our clients where we're just doing, logo replication, but it's tougher. And especially in the days of, internet technology, people do have a lot of options for, getting price quotations. And so, when we're doing artwork that's supplied by customers, one of the other challenges that we're always going to have is the suitability to our production process. And I have firsthand experience with that. We had done some transfers. The good folks at Supacolor had done some transfers for us. And instead of using our in-house graphic design team, we used a freelance graphic designer to come up with the design. And it was for our trade show in Long Beach. Came up with a very cool design. It was a NASCAR type theme. And it was absolutely unsuitable for direct-to-film transfers or even for screen printing. And so we had to go back to the artist on one revision, and I finally just threw in the towel, and I reached out to my folks over at Supacolor. I said, hey, can you guys fix this on your end? And they said, yeah, we can get it handled, and it ended up turning out great. But it was a good reminder that when you're getting artwork from a marketing team, doesn't always mean it's being prepared for our processes. And they're just creating general graphics like they would for desktop publishing, not necessarily creating a graphic that they would use for something like screen printing or direct to film transfers or sublimation or the common processes that we use in the industry. And then again, higher, art development costs if you have to rebuild. And so oftentimes the artwork that comes in from clients isn't suitable for production and we have to rebuild it. And one of the things that I would say is we're always going to be doing replication of customer supplied artwork, and more specifically their logos. It's an important part of the business. We want that part of the business, but we also want to have our clients leaning on us as a creative resource. And so taking a graphic and building out a graphic that has a retail theme that maybe has the word Sun Valley and maybe even a ski theme or a mountain scene, they can only get that graphic from us, and we're engaging that customer in the creative process. So that's a very good sales tactic to get clients dependent on you, especially if you're leveraging the fact that, hey, I'm going to always bring you good ideas and you're not going to have to go out and do all this research because I'm going to be proactive and bring ideas to you. Custom art development, it's unavoidable. There's always going to be a requirement for custom art development. It's not something you can avoid, but here's the thing. You have to be very careful about doing custom art development, because if you're not accounting for your costs, you could very easily be losing money. And the graphics that you see here is for one of our clients in Wisconsin. They're a very talented graphic design team. They put out really, really good work. But, I was talking to the art director here, and some of these designs have, anywhere between 5 and 15 hours worth of art development time. They can afford to do that because they're dealing with, when they're dealing with big customers that have, high minimum order quantities and reorder potential, it makes sense to do that. But in their particular case, they ended up signing up for GraphicsFlow because they knew there was a whole nother business out there, which was these smaller order quantities, were simpler artwork, not having to spend all this art development on smaller orders. Because sometimes when you get honest with yourself and you look at what you're actually spending on custom art development, if you put a dollar value on your labor, you could actually be losing money. So that is something very important to consider. And if you don't meet a certain art requirement as far as your minimum order requirements, and especially if that customer doesn't reorder, then it's very possible that you're going to lose money on a deal. And that was one of the things when we had our printing business that, we had a policy where on these custom orders that we had a 144 piece minimum on t-shirts on these custom orders. And if the salesperson wanted to sell at a lower order quantity, the salesperson participated in that development cost by forfeiting 50% of their commission. And it was interesting how few orders came in below minimum once we implemented that policy. Also, there's always going to be a delay in production time. We talked about revisions before, but anytime you're doing artwork, you're going to have revisions. And I spoke to a client last week, and their commentary to me was, I did all this work for this customer. I developed this graphic for them. I got it in front of the buyer, and they turned around and bought it from somebody else. They just took my artwork to somebody else and very politely told the customer, I said, hey, listen, that's really on you. This concept of not getting an upfront contract with the customer as to giving them a clear understanding that if you're going to develop artwork for them, that they can't take it to somebody else. If you don't have that conversation with them up front, some people are just going to take that art to somebody else. So you have to be pretty careful about that. And I would say that doing custom artwork really should be reserved for customers that can place higher order quantities, will be reordering, and certainly it's not going to be profitable at your smaller order levels. So the last option I'm going to talk about is, engaging your buyers in a creative process. And this is where this customized stock art is going to come in, because if we're able to send our customers, let's say, to a website where they can select artwork, pick out ideas, submit it to you, and all you have to do is customize it, you've really created a very convenient situation from your customers. And when they're collaborating with you, they're going to buy from you. When the customer is providing you with input, said, hey, I found these ideas. I'd like to kind of flesh these out a little bit. And all of a sudden you're in a back and forth communication with them about taking a stock design and modifying it to their needs. Guess what? You've become a creative resource to them, and you're not sending them to the internet to find other people. So, being proactive, getting ideas in front of your customers, it's going to help you to scoop the competition. Honestly, it's a really good way to keep the competition out. And also, creating samples, and you get ideas in front of a client that are, whether they're a physical sample or a virtual sample, that's a very powerful selling tool. And it's certainly something that's going to differentiate you from the competition. So one of the things, as we're kind of going through this process in getting back to school, prepared for back to school, what your customers are going to be interested in, your customers are going to be interested in seeing graphics that are as, quote, cool as what they're seeing on the sidelines of the professional sports franchises, the collegiate sports. Your customers are very savvy. A lot of them follow social media, especially, students and athletes. They see what's going on in the marketplace. So there's going to be an expectation from your clients to have something that is as cool as what they're seeing out there from Nike and Adidas and Under Armour and Fanatics and some of these brands. So, these brands are, they're big companies. They're spending, in some cases, probably millions of dollars in research and development. They're doing things like have focus groups on sets of graphics to really tune in what's selling. Now there's these licensing situations like with Ohio State where they have an exclusive arrangement with Hanes brands, where Hanes is doing the lion's share of their printing under the Champion Hanes, and I think they have one other brand that's part of that consortium. So, the graphics are really the key. And, if you don't have good graphics, your products aren't going to sell. And so emulating the top retail brands and creating graphics that look familiar to your customers, I think, is an excellent strategy. And that's where utilizing customizable stock designs can really help, jumpstart your creativity. And again, sample sell. You get an idea that looked similar to something that somebody had seen online from one of the big retailers, and now they're seeing something of that same quality level or similar style, localized to a high school or little league. That's a very powerful selling tool, and it's very professional as well. So empowering your team with customizable stock designs. So here's the thing, your team, we didn't say your art department. So one of the questions that I get, especially when I'm talking to business owners, well, I need to talk to my artist about this whole GraphicsFlow technology, and I need them to buy in. And my reply to that is, no, you don't need your art department to buy in, because the way that the customizable stock designs are designed to work is the customer's working directly with your support team, your customer service team, and your sales team. So by the time the artwork gets to the art department, it's already in order. So we don't need the art department to buy in. And you guys are going to see some technology today where anyone, regardless of skill level, can produce very high quality production ready art using the stock art customizer in GraphicsFlow. So we don't need that buy-in from the art department. Now, if you're fortunate enough to have an art department, certainly that's going to help streamline their workflow. But we don't need buy-in from the art department. We already have an order by the time it gets to the art department. So with the customizable stock design, you you are controlling the sales process. So the whole process is controlled by you. You're reducing your art development costs because you're not having to do all the research to come up with the ideas and having to get 5 or 6 ideas built in front of the customer so they can pick one. You're establishing value for your creative services. Clients are learning to lean on you for your talent and your creativity. And frankly, you're just making it easier for people to buy from you. And in today's day and age, especially with all the technology that's out there, making it easy for people to buy is the name of the game. And, if you're Main Street USA and you have a shop and you have walk-in traffic, you are very fortunate. I talk to my clients that are, brick and mortar, and they don't see the kind of foot traffic that they used to see, prior to the pandemic. People's consumer habits have changed and more people are shopping online. It's just easier. I play guitar, and I was looking for, I sold a couple guitars on OfferUp. That was quite an experience. And I was looking to replace a guitar because we have a rule here in the family that, one has to go out before a new one comes in. And I went into one of the guitar stores here, and they didn't really have a whole lot of inventory, and they didn't have a guitar I liked. And you know what I did? I came home, did a little research, and I found an open box guitar at, probably 40% off. And I bought it online this morning. Now, my wife hasn't seen the credit card bill yet, so I guess I'll have to explain that. But, I sold another guitar to make room for this new one. But consumer habits have changed, and if you're not making it easy for people to buy from you, they have plenty of options online. So we also want to ensure that graphics are production ready. And one of the things that we've done is we've been producing stock art content for the apparel decoration business for many, many years. And we know how to put together graphics that are going to work well to convert to embroidery, that are going to be ready to print film for screen printing, that can be easily modified for vinyl graphics, that can be color corrected for digital transfers, print and cut, wide format digital printing, or even like the new DTF or hybrid transfer technology. So having production ready files is a huge advantage to you because you don't have to do all that extra work to get it ready to output to your equipment. And reducing your production time, you can respond quickly. And if you have an event or something that's happening within your community and you want to rally around that event and produce some graphics, if you have a starting point to put something together, then you can get an idea in front of a buyer literally in a matter of minutes. So that's some of the pros of dealing with customizable stock designs. So the technology I'm going to show you today is called the Stock Art Customizer. And the basic crux of the technology, it allows our clients to modify the vector graphics in our massive library of designs right directly in the GraphicsFlow web application. And you don't have to edit designs in Adobe Illustrator or CorelDRAW anymore. One of the challenges that we have, and I've been using Illustrator since 1988, and I've been using CorelDRAW since about 1996. I would consider myself to be an expert in both programs. I have, cultivated skills and producing graphics over the years. And it just shocks me how easy it is to do graphics compared to having to go through that pretty awful learning curve of learning these complex vector art programs. And you'll see programs on, that are more consumer-oriented programs like Canva. People are drawn to a program like Canva because it's easy. And you can look at like this customizable stock art aspect of GraphicsFlow is kind of like Canva for apparel decorators, and something we're really proud of. And one of the things that's kind of unique to this technology is we've created all these designs in CorelDRAW and Adobe Illustrator. So we have the full complement of effects and features of CorelDRAW and Adobe Illustrator, and we're able to edit that native design. We don't have to tune the designs down for an SVG engine. One of the things that you'll see when a lot of these online designer apps is the graphics are pretty simple. And the reason for that is most of the companies that have these designer apps are using the open source SVG technology, which doesn't have the kind of power that you would see in like a CorelDRAW or Adobe Illustrator. So we get to edit on these full-blown Corel and Illustrator files. And at the end of the day, when we're done editing, we get to download a production-ready vector file that's ready to go. And if we need to get it to our art department, they need to make any kind of adjustments, they have all the rudiments to go in and move objects around, change colors, do certain production steps like welding and trimming or trapping or underbasing. They have the ability to do that. And the best part is you're empowering your entire team regardless of skill level. Anyone in your organization can edit the designs in GraphicsFlow without any previous design capabilities. And if you have an art department, hey, you're freeing up your design team instead of having to hear from a salesperson, hey, can you take this and do this to this and do this to this and do that to that? They have to do that. The salesperson can just do it. And then when they get, the deal closed, they can just send it to the art department for production. So So I am logged into my GraphicsFlow account here. And when I'm logged into my GraphicsFlow account, first thing you're going to see is you're going to see what we call design ideas over here. So these are interactive designs, and all these designs were created in Adobe Illustrator. We have a version of the file that's CorelDRAW formatted. So they're two identical files with the same art, and everything is production ready. Every single file in here is ready to go. There's nothing special that you have to do in any of these graphics to make custom changes to it. And true to form right here, if we go over here to clip art, we're the company that invented clip art for screen printers many years ago, and we have a massive library of clip art. So if you just need a tiger mascot, you can just type in tiger and you can find your tiger mascots. And if you want to download it, you can just click on here and either download a PNG file, a CDR file, which is the original Corel vector file, or an Adobe Illustrator file. And you can just click on download and you can edit all these files offline in your favorite graphics program. And in order to create good design templates, you need good fonts. And so in GraphicsFlow, if you're an existing GraphicsFlow member, you'll notice that your count of your fonts went from, I think it was 374 up to 560. So we just added a whole bunch of new fonts. If you want to install those fonts, you can just go over here to go download all. And when you're installing them, and if you get prompted to overwrite existing fonts, just say no, because you'll just install the newest ones. And so the reason the fonts have to be installed is when we open up a template in Adobe Illustrator, if the font is missing, we're going to get a prompt saying, hey, the font's missing, and this design is not going to look correct until we get the font installed. In CorelDRAW, it's a little bit different because in CorelDRAW, the fonts are embedded in the document, so you won't get that message. But you also won't have those fonts showing up in CorelDRAW either. And so when you install the TrueType and OpenType fonts from GraphicsFlow, they'll show up in all your graphics programs, including if you have an embroidery program that is compatible with TrueType fonts, like something like maybe drawings, they're going to show up in there as well. So here's all your fonts. So downloading and installing the fonts is really important. So if I want to edit a design, the way I'd go about doing that is using the Stock Art Customizer. And the way we find designs, there's really two ways of going about doing that. Way number one is I come up with ideas and I get those in front of the customer and they pick one out and I go and do editing. So that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is sending them to my art portal. And I'll show you how art portal works a little bit later, but let's just go in here and customize a design. And a couple different ways to locate content. Number one, I could go over here and go to a category, and let's say we're going to do a sport, and I went to sports, and I went over here to baseball. I could just select the baseball category. Now, on the other hand, I could also come over here and select a style. So I've got baseball selected, but I'm going to go to style, and I only want to see athletic designs. So now we're only seeing athletic designs under baseball. I'm going to uncheck that, and I'm going to uncheck baseball. Or I could type in baseball. Now, one of the things we've done in keywords, when we keyworded baseball, we also added softball to the keywords for baseball. So a lot of times the softball design is going to be interchangeable with the baseball design. So that's one of the advantages of using the search filter. So I could go through here and select a design, or I could just go over here and type in, let's say it was going to be a softball layout. I could just go softball and hit enter. And when I find the design I like, I just click on it. So I'm just going to click on this design right here, and we're going to do some editing. And one of the things that you'll notice right away on this design is this text effect is multi-layers. So you have layer one, word eagles, and then I think this one is a 2-layer. So you have layer one is white with the burgundy outline, and then the third layer is just got this broad gold outline around the perimeter of it. So that's a multi-layer text effect, and I believe the softball is a multi-layer text effect. So when we click on customize, what's going to happen is we're going to be prompted to change the text. And because there's multiple layers in these text effects, we need to change both layers. So I'm just going to change this to cougars. I'm going to change this one to cougars on layer 2. It's that easy. And then what I'm going to do is where it says softball, we're going to change this to baseball. And same thing on this layer over here. And then we're going to change this over here to 2023 season right there. So we've got the basics of the design, although that's a pretty funny looking cougar. So we probably want to change that mascot to a cougar mascot. Now, one of the things that you can do with GraphicsFlow, if you want to, you can mute objects. So if I wanted to mute the ribbon and just see what it looked like without the ribbon, probably looks fine without the ribbon. Yeah, it looks fine. It's not as exciting, but we'll turn the ribbon back on. And I can also independently color each one of these design elements. There's a little edit button right here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap out the clip art. So I'm going to select the little edit button right here next to the eagle. And I'm going to say replace clip art. And I'm going to do a search. And I'm going to type in cougar. And I'm going to hit enter. And then I'm going to scroll down till I find the cougar I want. You notice there's quite a few different styles in here, even some paw prints in here, which are actually quite authentic. If I wanted a cute cartoony look right here, I could choose that. If I wanted more like a helmet decal style, where it looked like one of the pro sports, if I wanted something that was more photorealistic, it's just kind of up to me. So I'm going to do this pro sports image right here, and I'm going to hit apply once it swaps out. And so this is where I'm accepting the change to the graphic. And this is where we can make changes. And so something that's really important to recognize using the Stock Art Customizer is we're not editing the vectors live in our screen right here. What we're doing is we're editing this on a server. And so all of the files are the native Adobe Illustrator and Corel files. They're actually being edited on a server. And so as a result of that, you're not grabbing things and moving them around in here. You're just making adjustments here, and it's changing the file on the server. And then once the file is completed, we download the production file. And what's interesting, when you download the production file, it actually creates 3 versions of the file: a PNG in Adobe Illustrator, and a PNG, Adobe Illustrator, and a PDF file. So if we want to make little changes, like say over here, maybe make this a little bit bigger. So I'll make that a little bit bigger. I'm going to blow it up like 4%. And maybe I want to move it over to the left a little bit. We have all the latitude to make those changes. But one of the things that we can, and we can flip and rotate, and we can do all that fun stuff. But one of the really cool things about the Stock Art Customizer, and it's a big advantage over like the traditional graphics programs, is I can isolate just one element and work on just one element as it's isolated, which means I can also work on the individual colors within that element without impacting any of the other objects in the design. Here's what I mean by that. If I go over here to the color list for this clip art right here, and I select a color that's already in the design, so a color that's already in the design, here's all the colors in the design, and I reassign that to that burgundy color, guess what I've done? I've consolidated I have one less color in my design here. So I'm going to hit apply. And then on these 2 colors, I'm going to consolidate these to white. And I've done this design before, so I know that this looks better with white. I suppose we could take the white and change it to the burgundy, but it actually, I found that it really stands out when you have the white against the colors in the softball, or in this case, the baseball. So we've gotten these changes made in the design, and what we're going to do is we're just going to go over here and click on View Layers, and we're going to go back to the main design. And here's where I can start to make some different accommodations. So the color scheme I'm going to go with on this design, I'm going to use some gray. I'm going to use some, I think I'm going to go with like a cardinal, or maybe a red, and navy blue. So if I want to, I could go to just this object right here and individually change this. So if I go over to this line over here where it says cougars, and you notice there's no outline on this one, that's what that's saying, is there's no outline here. If I go over here to the cougars right here, I'm going to select it, and I'm going to change this outline right here to maybe a gray. I'm just going to introduce a gray into the design. So we've actually added a new gray, and I'm going to hit apply, and I'm going to hit view layers, and you notice that the new color is coming up in here. And then I'm going to go over here where this color is right here, and I'm trying to think, I believe I'm going to change that to navy, see what it looks like. So I'll change that to navy. Should look pretty good. Yep, does look pretty good. And then I'm going to change over here in the white in this text right here. I think we're going to change that to navy. We could change that to navy. It's probably going to look good in navy. Navy's already used in the design. So you have the ability to do all this customization quite easily. And I think what we want to do in the center of the cougars, I think we do want to make the fill color on this. I think we want to make it the gold. So we're going to make it gold. So that's how easy it is to go in and modify, colors in a design. And so we don't have to do all that traditional modification that you guys are used to doing, we can just simply do that globally on the whole design. And at this point, if I want to change some of the additional colors, let's say we want to come up down here and we want to incorporate red into this. We'll just use this red over here. We can do that. And then also, if we want to go over here and take this color right here and just get rid of it, or maybe even change it to gray, we could do that. See how it looks? Yeah, it's starting to come together. And so I've got quite a bit of latitude on the design. And the other thing I can do is I can just get rid of a layer. If I just wanted to make this a simpler effect, I could go over here on the word cougars and mute one of the layers. So we could go over here and mute a layer. Actually, I like it a little bit better like that. So there we go. We have our design. And what we're going to do once we have the design set up, we're just going to save it. So I'm actually saving the native vector file. And the neat thing is I can come back later on and pull this design up and make a variation with different text, with different clip art and different colors. So I can populate this design for other schools within my area and other buyers within my area. And I can utilize that to get kind of a product showcase in front of a customer. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to hit Save Design. And I'm going to select a folder. And these files are being saved on the GraphicsFlow website. And so it's very secure. We are using Microsoft Azure online or cloud-based technology. And there's many, many layers of redundancy. And so versus your local computer, if something goes on with your local computer and you don't have a file backup, don't worry, it's saved on your GraphicsFlow account. So we're going to go ahead and hit Save here. And at this point, if I chose to, I could download a PDF file. I'll just download a little PDF here. And I'll just put that in my downloads folder and I'll just call it Cougars Baseball 2. So I'll just save that there. So that's a file. I can now open that file up in any of the popular vector graphics programs. Adobe Illustrator, full editing level control. If you're using a freeware program like Inkscape, full editing level control. If you're using a program like Affinity Designer, you can edit every single aspect of the design. The only difference is the file, the text is not going to be live anymore. The text is live in GraphicsFlow. Once the PDF is created, the text is converted to what we call curves or outlines. Now, it's a little bit different with the CorelDRAW file. If we download the CorelDRAW file, the file is coming down and it's fully editable, including the text. So it's coming down from the server as a native CDR file. So the other thing that we can do is we can add this to an art approval. So I could go back to this and continue customizing, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to add this to an art approval. And I already had created some baseball designs the other day. I'm going to go ahead and add it to this particular baseball set of baseball designs. We'll see what that looks like. I can't remember what's in there, but I could also create a new one. So we'll just add these files. And I can go and continue customizing and make another variation of this, change the text. If I click on continue customizing, if I make any changes in here and maybe change this to, Cougar softball now, right? When I go to save this, it's going to ask me, do I want to save over the original or do I want to save a copy? And I would say I'd probably want to save a copy. So we're going to go back in to where it's saved. So it's chilling out and it's located, and I believe I put it in my BTS designs folder. So there, yep, there's the baseball. Here's the baseball version, and then here's the softball version. And then here's another color combination I did with the same design earlier. So you remember that we added this to an art approval. So let's talk about that for a second, because this is really important. So we have a very important customer on our webcast today, Scott Siegel, and it was interesting. Scott was one of the first people to get a GraphicsFlow account, and he was actually on the beta. And I got I think it was an email or a phone call. I think it was a phone call from Scott saying, hey, I can't get into my GraphicsFlow account. And I realized, oh, wow, we're not in beta anymore. We actually went to what's called GA, which is general availability. So it came out of beta. And I said, oh, you have to pay for it now. And I go, what's the rush to get into your account? And he says, well, I've got all these art approvals out to all these customers. And I said, well, tell me what you're doing. I'm really curious to see what you're doing. And what he told me was that typically for his back to school, everything piles up at once. So all the orders kind of pile up at once, and none of the orders can get processed until the artwork is finalized. And so what happens, two things happen that are pretty bad for his business. One was creates a cash flow crunch because everything's kind of shipping in the same very compact window. And then also the other part about it is all the production piles up on top of itself, and he wants to be able to spread it out. So what he'd done is he went and created all these showcases and gotten design ideas in front of his customers, and to try to get them to pre-select the artwork so he could advance the order. And one of the secondary byproducts of doing that is it froze out the competition. And I just thought that was such a clever thing. It was kind of one of those, I call it a Dorothy moment. It's always been there. You just had to click those heels together. But I've shared that piece of advice with so many people, and customers have always been kind of grateful, because it's Scott, it's just a great piece of advice. And I would say, I don't know that you invented that, but you certainly brought it to popularity. So here's some designs that I created earlier in an art showcase, and I can add an additional design to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click on the add button, and I'm going to go to my art, and we had that folder for BTS designs, and I'm going to grab the softball design that we just did right here. Well, actually I'll grab the softball version of it, and I'll hit add. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to recolor this. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to recolor this so it's got a different background color. And I think that would look, I've looked on it on quite a few different colors, but I think I'm going to go with like an ash gray here. So I'm going to go to background color, and we're just going to do this. Yeah, it looks great. Ash gray. So this is the kind of showcase that Scott was doing for his customers. And so once he had these showcases completed, what he would do is he'd fire this off to his customer. Back in the early days, we didn't have what's called sharing links. We just had the direct emailing system. So yeah, there's quite a few people that are actually commented on this. It's interesting. And so I'll tell you why these names are in here, because I used a shareable link, and I'll do the same thing today. You guys can actually comment on this. So what I did, instead of using the email system and putting the email in here and sending it through our email system, which is the original way we did it in GraphicsFlow. A lot of clients didn't like that because it came from the GraphicsFlow email system, even though it was branded to you and had your logo and your company name. People wanted to take that link and put it into a text message or put it into their own draft email. So we created this new way of sending out links, which is called a shareable link. And there's 3 ways that shareable links work. One way is a view-only link. So if you were prospecting and you just wanted to send out a bunch of cool graphics that you localized for all the local schools and sent that out to 5 or 6 coaches or booster club members, you could do that with the view-only link. They have no visibility on each other's comments. So it's just a static page where the graphics can be viewed. Now, if I send out a commenting link, anybody can comment, but everybody can see everybody else's comments. And that's really good when you're working with the group and you're just trying to get them to narrow down their choice for the graphic. That's great. But also you can do commenting and approval links. So when you have the final piece of artwork and you're just trying to get them to sign off on it, you would send a comment and approve link. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this commenting link here, and I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to put this into the chat for the live webcast, and you guys can comment, and every time you comment, I'm going to get an email. So I just sent that in the chat. So if you're on the live webcast, you feel free to comment. I think it's always kind of fun to see people's input on this, so feel free to comment. But if you're watching the recording, you're not going to have access to the link unless you happen to screen grab that and grab that URL down there. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. So this is a very powerful tool, and the customer's not seeing this. So they're not seeing all this other stuff. They're just seeing the graphic. And one of the things that I can do with one of these links, I can take this link and I can take the viewing link and I can copy this into my art portal. We'll do that here in a second so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is what's called an art portal. And if I click on art portal here, this is going to go to my art portal. And this is a place where I can send my customers, they can search through the designs, and they can go in and select a design for customization. So if somebody wanted to, take this pet design here and put in some notes, can you change this to here for good? For good. That's our pet shelter that we work with. And we'll just add that, and then they can just check out. They can put any kind of notes in there that they want to. And they can submit this. So I'm going to get an email that says, hey, this person has submitted a design request. And then I can go in, use the Stock Art Customizer and change it real quick. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a link up here with that gallery of artwork that I just did. So let me show you how I'm going to do that. So if I go back into my GraphicsFlow account and I go to my art portal settings, I've got all these little galleries that I've added right here. And I've actually can drag and drop them to move the order around. I'm going to add a link, and I'm going to call this Central Baseball or Central High Showcase. Why not? And I'm going to put the URL in there, and I'm going to hit apply. And then I'm going to drag and drop that up to the top. So I'm going to put it right below back to school. So I'm going to move back to school at the top, and then the Central High below. So I've just added this gallery of artwork to my art portal. And so at this point, I'll just recycle this. If customer goes to the art portal, number one, this page is hosted, but the customer goes to the art portal, they can see some of the work that I did for Central High. And this is where showcases are great. And if you've done webcasts with me before, you'll hear me say this pretty frequently. You can't enter a new market if you don't have graphics that correspond to that market. And so if you're trying to get into, churches or military or, auto, car clubs or even pickleball, if you don't have artwork for that particular market segment, it's going to be pretty hard to sell them. Customers don't respond well to, hey, I can do a bunch of really cool stuff for you. They respond to saying, oh, there's some really pretty awesome pickleball designs. And imagine taking this general design and making it for our local pickleball league here in my community. That's a very powerful tool, and it allows you to enter into that market. And so the art portal has become fundamental to the way many of our customers do business, and customers do some very creative things with their portal. And one of the things that you'll see in a portal, if you scroll down, you can configure the colors and the look and feel. I'm going to change my background color a little bit here, and I'm going to go for something a little bit deeper, maybe more like a periwinkle here. So you can change the copy that's in your portal. So this is like a generic portal right now. And this portal, I'm just going to recycle that, and you'll see it update live. It actually looks pretty decent. So, but the other thing you can do is what we call embed code. And that's what these guys did right here. And so if you scroll down in your portal, you'll see the embed code. You can copy that code. And if you have an HTML editor, like using Wix or WordPress or, Square, any of the common, web, GoDaddy, Inksoft, any of the common web hosts, you can create a landing page and copy and paste this HTML embed code and do this. So all of this right here is what the customer created on their landing page. And actually, let's go back out to their home page, and you can see it a little bit differently. So here's the home page. They created this landing page, which is called their school showcase. They took designs from GraphicsFlow and they localized them for the local schools in their area. And then what they did is they created this little design custom apparel button, which goes to their art portal. And I was on a class and I made the mistake of, I thought I was in my portal and I submitted an art request, and wow, was I in for a surprise. I had a salesperson reach out to me within 15 minutes. I got in their email sequence. They had a whole drip email campaign that went behind this. It was pretty amazingly relentless. And I actually I didn't text, but I emailed the salesperson. I said, hey, listen, this is Craig from Graphics. So I accidentally filled out an art request, but I said, if you don't mind, don't take me out of your email sequence, because I'd like to see what you guys are doing, as you're kind of periodically nudging the customer. Hey, you have a graphic that's abandoned in your cart. Is this something you would like me to work up a quote? It was really clever. I was really impressed. This is a very large company, and they were not in the school business. That was not part of their business. They do resort wear. They do very high-end resort wear. And they just were wanting to expand into the school business because they had some excess production capacity, and people were finding them through search engine optimization because they're one of the biggest screen printers in their area in Florida. And this is the kind of work that they do. And so they didn't want to have to go and create all these school graphics when we basically had done all the work for them. So that's pretty remarkable right there. I don't know. I'm looking at that design. That's an illustration. I can't even imagine how many hours that would take to draw that. Probably 15, 20, 30 hours, maybe even more. But, having all those great stock designs allowed them to, go into the local school market, and they're after the low-hanging fruit. They're not going out there trying to do bids. They're just they have very high search level for their local Google search, and people find them and they're like, hey, listen, go to my art portal, pick something out. They're not chasing the school business. Let's put it that way. So there's where our art portal comes together. And so the Stock Art Customizer, one of the other things that's kind of neat about the Stock Art Customizer, and those of you that are GraphicsFlow Elite members, this week we went live with the art portal for all of you. So if you go into your GraphicsFlow account and you have an Elite account, even if you click on clip art, doesn't matter, or design templates, one of the things that you're going to notice is when you click on that, there's a new button there. So if I want to take this tiger right here and I want to customize it, I can customize the clip art before I download it. And I think that's I think that's really clever. I didn't realize we were doing that. When I first saw the web app and we were in beta, I was like, oh wow, you can customize the clip art too. So before I even download it, I can go over here and change the colors up on the clip art. And if I want to make that more of like a, navy blue over here, I can do that on the clip art before I even download it, which is, to me, is really, really cool. And then the other thing I can do is I can save this into my art, so I can have a bunch of customized clip art sitting in my art. And I can go in there and, if I just need to pull up that image, I can just pull it up kind of at my leisure. So that's a thing that's kind of exciting. So we'll go ahead and save that file. And I'll put it into my customizer files there. There we go. So what I was going to show you was making variations. And so if you've gone and you've created a showcase for a customer, and maybe it's for Central High, there's no reason that you can't go in and add additional design to it just by taking one of your other designs and just tweaking it out. Let me show you an example of that. If I go over here to art approvals, this is a project that I did last year. I did a webinar and kind of a similar topic on back to school. And I said, one of the things that's really smart for you to do is go in and create some concepts that are specific to the schools in your community. It's just a really, really smart thing to do. And you don't have to, go in and, do a whole lot of designs, but, coming up with some designs, putting together a showcase, going to the website for the school district, pulling up the faculty, advisors and coaches and the parent volunteers. Their emails are all on at least in Arizona here, they're all on the district's website, and sending out a little email and saying, hey, we're a local vendor. Here's some ideas and some things that we've done. This shows you our capabilities. What a great lead generation. But here's the thing that I can do. Check this out. Remember, we created that design and we went over to my art. I think I put it over in BTS, so here. So let's go over here and we'll change this design over here. And we'll click on it. And then I'm just going to further customize this. We'll just click on customize. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to change this over here to, let's see, we'll change that to wolves. Oh, that layer's turned off. We don't have to change that one. Wolves. I guess I could turn it back on if I wanted to. We'll change that to wolves, and we'll leave baseball alone. And really all we have to do is just change the mascot. So replace that with the wolf. And we'll just do a simple little wolf here. This one right here. And we'll apply that, and we'll do a little bit of editing. We'll make this wolf a little bit bigger. And then let's move it up a little bit. There we go. And let's change the colors. So let's see. I'm going to take the black and make it the navy. And ultimately, these aren't the colors we're going to use, but we're just recoloring this. And I'm going to use the gray that was already in the design. And we can further, we'll leave those colors alone, but I'll show you we can further consolidate those. And so then I'm going to go over here to view layers right here. And let's see here, let's change this to desert mountain colors. So really all I have to do is take this and change it to black. It makes it pretty easy. And I'm going to consolidate one of these grays. So I'm going to take this gray and consolidate it to this gray. And let's see, we can actually consolidate this gray too. And on the wolf, now that I think about it, this should be white. There you go. So now I'm going to save it. So I'm going to save the design. And it says update customized design. Nope. Save as a new customized design. Yep. And I'm just going to put this in my back to school designs. Save, but I'm going to add it to that same art approval. So I'm going to add it to that art approval that I just did. And with all my back to school designs, just do a quick little search here. Back to school designs. I'll just add that file. And there you go. We've just added one more design for Desert Mountain into our back to school art approval. That's how easy it is to do. And this is a very powerful selling tool. And this is the kind of thing that big companies are doing. You know, they have a lot of resources. They have full-time marketing teams. They can do a lot of things that a small independent business can't do because they have a lot of employees, right? Well, guess what? Now you're an army of one. You have a set of tools that allows you to have a very sophisticated graphics capability without having to be a graphic designer. And so we are just absolutely thrilled with the Stock Art Customizer and the kind of things that it enables our clients to do, because we don't have to have an artist to do this stuff. And especially a lot of our clients who are in the promotional products industry, you know, what they've found is they can't just be logos on stuff brokers anymore. You know, if they're logos on stuff brokers, you know, because it has become so commoditized, all of a sudden there's a necessity for them to do, you know, what we call corporate lifestyle branding. And corporate lifestyle branding is going to look like this. If I go over here and type in corporate, I have a little art approval that I did, is you take the name of the business and possibly some icons from the industry they're in, and you build these retail graphics around that business. This is what sells merch, not just doing the boring logo. It's pretty impressive. So this is something that we teach, and it's been a very effective tool for our folks that are working in the corporate entity, within corporate entities, as well as our promotional products distributors. So last thing I want to do is I want to show you how we can take this file and we can create a little proposal for our customer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say create. And I'm in the Inksoft application. So Inksoft is a completely separate, independent product. It is not part of GraphicsFlow. It's our sister company. Inksoft is very famous for their e-commerce capability, and it's the industry's leading platform for e-commerce for the decorated apparel industry. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little art approval. So I'm going to say add customers, and I'm going to take my customer Greg here, and we're going to add him to this. And then I'm going to associate, we'll just call this Central Cougars Baseball Concept right here. I'm going to associate this with Greg's store. So I have a store set up for Greg for Central High Boosters, because all the look and feel and pricing and all the information associated with, and all the billing stuff associated with Greg's store is now assigned to this proposal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a product here. And so we are going to, I could add an existing product that I created right here, or what I could do is I could add some art. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to upload a piece of art. So I'm going to upload a print file. And you remember when we created that PDF file before? We were thinking ahead there, huh? So I'll hit open right here. We're going to open up that PDF file. Because it's vector, I'm going to have actually the ability to change colors and do what's called a colorway. I've got quite a bit of editing level control over this particular file, which is really nice. So we'll hit done right there. And so there's our little PDF file. I'm going to save this proposal. And let's see here. Let us go and we will add a product. And I'm just going to type in 2000. See if we can get a Gildan 2000 in here. And there's a blank one. And I'm just going to pick I'm just going to pick Ash. I think that's how we set that file up. Pick Ash, and so what do we have? Ash right here. And I'm just going to take this piece of artwork that I already created. There it is. Ta-da, ta-da, ta-da. I can create a colorways for that. So if I was going to put it on a different product, we can create a colorway. So let's see, to put that on navy, what I'd really have to do is take the navy color and make that white, I think. Yep. Hit done, save colorway, and let's add it to navy. So we'll add navy in here. This is the difference between having a generic e-commerce platform and having one that's designed for decorated apparel. These are the kind of things. Having the whole product feed available in here from all the different manufacturers. We're going to create that mock-up there. And oops, we're going to edit the art. We're going to put the other colorway on that one. There we go. And let's see. Ready to rock and roll. And we've got these products, and I can put the pricing in here. I'll just put in 12 extra larges and 12 extra larges there. And let's see here. Okay. And this is going to be a screen print. It's going to have 3 colors. Decoration method, screen print. This one is 3 colors. Add it to proposal. So I'm basically building out a quote at this point. And if I want to get this in front of the customer, all I have to do is go over and save it. And then I go to what's called customer view and preview as approval. And notice the look and feel from the customer store is now in here. Here's the products. They can see a blow up of the print. They can view details on the product. They want to zoom in on the graphic, they can zoom in on the graphic. So this is how Inksoft ties in with GraphicsFlow. So we would use GraphicsFlow to create the graphic, and then once the customer selected the artwork, then we would go into proposal phase where we create the virtual sample in the artwork using the Inksoft platform. That's the easiest way to do it. And then the other thing that we would do is we would create a store using that particular piece of artwork. So I've already got a store built here, which is super easy to do in Inksoft. And let's swap out the graphic. So I'm going to take that graphic right there, and I'm going to swap that out with the new one that I just did. Got quite a few products in here now. Wow, I've really been building out this store, haven't I? Oh, it's right here. So we're going to select that one. And there you go. There's our design. I just updated the store, and we're good to go. If you guys want to see that store, what I'll do is I'll put that in the URL in the chat as well. You guys can see what that store looks like. So that's how easy it is. There's not a lot to do to create a proposal that's interactive. Customer can go on that proposal if they want. They can click on pay. And it's all set up with billing. Now we're set up with ACH. So if you want to have them pay with ACH or a credit card, you can do that. So there's the general concept of the class today. So being proactive, streamlining your whole art production, using customized stock designs so that you can get ideas quickly in front of your customers, engage them in a creative process so then they want to purchase from you, and then leveraging online stores in order to tie up their business. Because if you tie them up with an online store, it's going to be really hard for them to go with another vendor. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me today. And we hope to see you on future Decorator Academy classes. Thank you.